You've been asking for it, and now we're going to bring it to you. Today we start diving into the world of nitrous, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage, and let me start off by throwing a huge thank you straight out to Nitrous Express and Snow Performance for sponsoring the garage. And because of Nitrous Express, we are going to dive into the world of nitrous, doing installation, doing tuning, and basically covering the whole platform. So as I always say, please support the people that support the garage. There's going to be links throughout this video. We're going to look at some products from Nitrous Express. Please go out, view their website, take a look at what they have to offer, because they really have the best products out there for nitrous. And I'm not saying that because they're sponsoring us. Trust me. If you go and look at some of the technology that they're putting out there, you really can do about anything. And so we're going to dive into a bunch of different things. Specifically, we're going to add nitrous to Project Country Club. I've been hinting at this for weeks now. We have a kit in. It's a pretty basic kit, but we've got some cool add-ons to go with it. But we're going to be doing progressive control through the Holley ECU. That doesn't mean that we're going to be leaving behind the guys that are using things like HP tuners. We are going to touch on basic tuning principles. So as far as fuel delivery, spark delivery, things that you need to do to be safe while still delivering power through a nitrous oxide system. So that being said, once again, thank you Nitrous Express, thank you Snow Performance. We will be covering some methanol injection in the near future whenever we get the Super Auto supercharged again. So I'm super excited to check out the Boost Cooler Stage 4, which has the standalone controller on that thing. So make sure to stick around. If you have not subscribed already, click that subscription button, ring that bell. You don't want to miss out on the upcoming episodes of nitrous installation, tuning, and testing on Project Country Club. That being said, today we are going to dive into just going through the kit that we have here, talking about some of the different options and how to best plan out your nitrous installation. Bang for the buck, this is literally the most horsepower that you can get out per dollar on any performance modification. That's what kind of drew me to this. This is not a standard platform, but the principle, as always, is still the same. So we're still going to be dealing with a lot of the same issues that you deal with whenever setting up nitrous. Getting proper timing, getting proper fuel, how to control it. We're going to have to do progressive on this because this drivetrain is not going to be the most resilient drivetrain out here, but we should be able to use all of the tools at hand in order to create a safe and long-lasting installation on this. The idea behind this is eventually we will have an LS swap in it, but now we are probably going to keep this a nitrous-only car for the foreseeable future. Even whenever we go over to LS, we will be doing a build out on an LS specifically for a nitrous setup to make bigger power and have some fun with it. So that being said, let's dive into it. Let's get the kit open. Let's see what we've got, what we're working with, and we'll touch on some of the other equipment out there. Okay, when it comes to nitrous, it's much like anything else. What do they say? An ounce of planning is worth 2 aspirin for the future headache that you're going to have because you didn't take into account of everything. Something along those lines, right? So the idea behind it is Nitrous Express has a lot of kits out there, and we're going with just kind of the basic EFI universal dry kit. Partly being that we have a standalone ECU. So we have control over fuel delivery, and we will have control over things such as solenoid control using pulse width modulation. Now, that being said, they have kits left and right for any kind of setup that you're wanting. Most of the time, a lot of guys nowadays are going to be running a wet kit. And what does that mean? That means that you are going to have both a nitrous solenoid and a fuel solenoid. That way you get your fuel enrichment based off of your nitrous jet setup. We can dial that in specifically through the ECM, but we will also talk about wet systems as we go through. So if you hear me kind of flip-flop between the two, that's why. I'm trying to cover a broad basis. Now, what exactly is nitrous? I'm not going to give you the full rundown. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there that are better produced with very smart people that will tell you, but in the long run, you've got a bottle that has nitrous oxide in it, which is 2 parts nitrogen, 1 part oxygen. And why is that better than just standard air? Well, that's because for the actual volume of air that we're breathing into the engine, there's about 30 to 40% more oxygen in nitrous oxide than there is in atmospheric air. And because of that, More oxygen means more fuel, which means more power. That's where the power comes from, is by adding the additional oxygen. So that's all we're trying to do. All of the old myths of nitrous blowing your engine up and stuff like that, they're basically thrown out. If this is done correctly, it is very safe. You're not going to burn things up. But the key word is done correctly. So make sure, do your research, do your planning, and take your time tuning. Don't go out there and throw a 150 shot jet directly in with a dry shot whenever you don't have fuel control. You are going to burn something up. You're going to melt a piston. You're going to destroy stuff. So be smart about it. Do your research. And if you have questions, call up the experts at Nitrous Express and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. What is the best setup for me? So that being said, let's dive into kind of what we have here. We've got the standard 10-pound bottle, but we have the nice lightning valve on it. Man, this thing is a piece of art in its own right. Has your outlet on it, has a gauge port on it, so you can put a gauge port directly on it. Then we have the hose set that comes with the brackets, the relays, which we will not be using in this case, and the wide open throttle switch. Once again, we will not be using that on our setup, but everything that you need to run both the electrical and the lines, in this case from the trunk up front. Then we have our solenoid and jet setup. So this is where we bring the line from the nitrous bottle up to this solenoid, which is mounted in the engine bay, and then we run off of that over to the jet, which is plumbed into the intake track before the throttle body. On top of it, we do have a purge kit. Now, purge kits aren't required, but if you're looking for consistency, if you are actually racing, it is highly suggested that you run a purge kit because nitrous is in a liquid form inside of the tank, and we want to deliver the liquid up into the intake. Now, whenever it sits in the line from the rear to the front, it will start to basically boil off and evaporate and turn into a gaseous state. Whenever it turns into the gaseous state, you're not delivering the maximum amount of power. And in fact, if you have a wet system that is jetted to go with your nitrous jet, you will run lean for a couple seconds and have a little bit of bog out of the hole. So ideally, you purge it until you start seeing some liquid vapor come out, and then you know that the system is primed and ready to go, and you're going to get that instant power right off the bat. On top of it, we have a heater. Now, the bottle heater setup here is important because in order to maintain an ideal bottle pressure, you have to keep it at a certain temperature. The nice thing about this is it's set up, you basically plug it in, and it has a pressure gauge that goes into the side of your lightning valve here, and it will say, okay, in order to accomplish the ideal set pressure, turn the bottle heater on and keep the bottle at a temperature. We don't have to worry about tracking all of that down to make sure that we're going to have the optimal blend of nitrous getting to the motor. And then, oh no, hold on a second, drop something. And then, last but not least, we have a bottle blanket. Serves the same purpose as a heater. Once we get the bottle up to temperature, we want to keep it there. A bottle heater just keeps radiant heat from, cooling off your bottle. So pretty straightforward. This is kind of the setup that you're going to look for if you want to run optimal, consistent nitrous. And that's what we're looking for here, because this car is going to be more of a bracket racing style car where we go out, we dial something in, and we want to make sure that we get the most consistent pulls every time, so we can go out there and say, hey, we're dialing an 11.5, let's run an 11.5 every time, and we're going to make it happen through this setup. So now let's talk about some of the features that we're not going with on this setup that might be appropriate for yours. I've got Nitrous Express pulled up here. I'm going to shrink myself down into the corner, put the web page up here big so you can see what we're looking at. And we're going to go specifically into the Nitrous Express tab and look at EFI nitrous systems. So we have different options of doing direct port or intake style. The big thing is direct port, you're going to get more even distribution. Whenever you are running really big shots of nitrous, it's a little bit better, and at the same time you get better disbursement throughout the intake manifold, whereas going in through the intake before the throttle body, you're hoping that everything gets mixed together by the intake, but there's a chance that some cylinders aren't going to get as much nitrogen oxide in them as the rest. Direct port solves that problem. But the big stuff that I want to talk about is some of the electronic stuff that they have in here. So if we go down, let's go into EFI nitrous systems, electronics. Actually, we're going to go down into electronics and let's look at progressive nitrous controllers. The big benefit of progressive nitrous controllers is you're not getting that 100% shot of nitrous, whatever you're jetted at, right off the bat. So if you have 100 shot in there and you have a progressive sensor or a progressive controller setup, it's going to slowly ramp up. And you've got a couple ones to choose from here, mainly the EZ progressive, which is really cool. It is basically a window switch where you can adjust the timer on it, and it's going to start at 20% duty cycle and ramp up to 100% based on what you have it set at. So literally it says on here installation time is less than 30 seconds because it plugs in place of one of your relays. It couldn't get any simpler. It drives the existing nitrous solenoid that you have and makes it where you can actually increase the power over a set window of time. And instead, the ramp time on this is adjustable from 0 to 4.5 seconds, just a rotary knob. And it helps with things like tire spin, drivetrain shock, etc. Now, if you want to go a step further, they have the Maximizer 5. Let me pull it up here. Now the Maximizer 5 is the next level of progressive control for nitrous, and this is for the guys that are serious about having control over nitrous delivery on their car. This is completely programmable. You can have up to 4 different nitrous stages on here, and you can trigger off of things like RPM, miles per hour, boost pressure, etc., as opposed to just using things like a wide open throttle switch. This is going to be a little bit more in depth. It's actually a programmable device that comes with the option of having a touchscreen so you can make changes on the fly through a touchscreen in the cockpit of your car. As I said, this is literally one of the most advanced controllers out there, and if you are running a nitrous system that's really a big stage nitrous system on a car that's still utilizing the factory ECU, this is what you're going to want to do to get the big power nitrous out of it. Now, running a standalone like we're doing today, we have a lot of the options in here. We can't go out to 5 stages, so if we needed to go out beyond the 2 or 3 stages that we have available on the Terminator X, we would have to look at a device like this. And we might dive into this later on or do a review on it just to dive into some of the tuning aspects of it and how you can set up the Maximizer 5. I'm always excited to check out new electronic equipment and how you can use them to make better, safe power. Now we're just looking at kind of some of the accessories that you can get after the fact if you want to upgrade the kit that you already have. Bigger solenoids that have higher flow output, bigger jets for both fuel and nitrous, certain tools, purge systems. I mean, they've got everything that you can do a la carte instead of having to, buy a set that has a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily need. So that's why a situation like this, we can go in and get a basic dry setup, but I know I've got the option with Nitrous Express to go in, pick and choose the different parts that I want to add down the road to make things easier. One of them that I'm looking at in particular is the remote bottle opener. How nice would it be to hit a button on the dash there, know that your bottle's going to open, hit the purge a couple times, and you're ready to rock at a moment's notice. That's really good for whenever you're down in Mexico and somebody lines up beside you and wants to get a run out there. On top of it, they've got different line kits for doing your own direct manifold setups. If they don't have a kit already, they've got aftermarket bottle brackets instead of just the standard hose clamp style brackets. You can run billet brackets, things like that. It's all about how fancy, how advanced that you want to get, all the way down to being able to order individual bottles to have spares for whenever you're out at the track. So make sure, dive into the website, check everything out. And as I said, if you have any questions, use the contact us option, reach out to them, talk to the experts, let them help you. So that's the basic introduction of what we're going to be doing on Project Country Club as far as installing a Nitrous Express kit. As I said, we're not touching on everything here. There's going to be some overview where we touch on different parts that we're not using, but we are going to dive in next and start the actual physical installation of the kit on the car. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions on what you would like to see or what information you would like me to touch on as I go through this process, make sure and hit up the comments down below. As always, check the description. There will be links to everything that I've talked about, this kit, all the different progressive controllers, and check out Nitrous Express's website. If you have any questions, hit the contact us section there. They have emails, phone numbers. They're more than happy to help you guys out to make awesome amounts of power with one of their setups. That being said, I have to give another huge shout out to Nitrous Express for supporting the channel, for coming on as a sponsor, and allowing us to do a feature specifically on a nitrous setup. So by all means, please, please, please show the love back to them for showing the love to us as the garage. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Hit that like button. You know the rules. Check out all the links. Thanks for stopping by the garage. And remember, ABT, always be tuning.